if you're exploring your career, obviously you want to self-assess yourself. That's something that's important to do while you're, going into meetings, whether it's a job fair or if you're applying for roles, because you'll have to write a cover letter, you'll go through an interview, and at some point they'll ask you questions about yourself. So you want to make sure that that you're familiar. Taking an assessment is something that will help with that. And that is also something that we offer at the Career Center. I also mention that because I want you to have an open mind with, with going to the job fair, what type of roles that you could apply for. You want to know what you're interested in, because just because you have a specific major doesn't mean that you have to go on a specific career path. So, that being said, get started, and welcome to the Introduction to Career Fairs and How to Prepare event this afternoon. We get into what is a career fair. It's definitely a recruiting event. Sometimes students ask, is it really work? Is it successful, especially in a virtual setting? The answer is absolutely yes. Recruiters are looking for you, for Brooklyn College students, and they really want to hear you. They want to see your face. So that's something to keep in mind. Be physically prepared for that. Still come dressed as if you were going in person for the fair. And there's a large number of employers, that participate in Brooklyn College Fair, over 50. In this particular process, because it is virtual, you'll need to make an appointment. So please look to see, what employers are there, and really think about what you're interested in. And if you're not sure, have an open mind to explore different employers. And really the goal for the recruiters is for them to meet high level talent. So that's why it's really important for you to be prepared, and that we want to make sure that you have all of the resources and information so that you're able to do so. And I would also suggest, this is a recruiting event, and yes, they do want to fill open roles, but it's up to you to know what those roles are. So meeting the different employers, also thinking ahead. If you're not ready, still meet with them so that you can see what opportunities are available when you are ready to start applying. And some of the jobs, or rather internships or programs, they do have deadlines. So being ahead and being familiar with their programs will also give you an advantage. So we really encourage you to visit all of the employers. And also, it allows students to take leverage of the application process. You get to meet the employers beforehand, really get to understand what requires for you to stand out in the application process. And of course, we always talk about it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So again, connecting with the recruiter, that doesn't guarantee that you have the position, but making sure that they're familiar with who you are, what skills you have, and how your passion drives you to be a part of their organization or be taking on a role that they offer, I think is an advantage and will allow you to really take a step ahead of other applicants. So the career fair allows you as a student to make a great first impression. And that's really our focus of today's workshop. So as I mentioned briefly, right, this is a virtual fair. We have in the past conducted a lot of in-person fairs, and hopefully maybe in the future that is something that we will be able to explore again. However, we have very successfully been able to adopt to a virtual fair format, and that is what this fall, October 1st, 2021, the fair is going to look like. It's going to be a one-on-one quick chat, or rather a mini info session, depending on which employer that you are having. And because this is, this really in some ways kind of gives you more of an advantage than the in-person, because you get that one-on-one time, and you have a set amount of time that maybe you wouldn't have had in person, especially because it's very rushed. It could be crowded. There could be a long line. So this creates a little bit more organization and gives you that opportunity to connect. But again, most importantly, you want to make sure that you're prepared and that you give a great first impression, because when you meet someone, that first impression, right, it could turn a situation bad, or it could make it worse, right? So being prepared, that doesn't mean be afraid, right, and don't try, but then be strategic about it. For example, if you know you're nervous, don't schedule the employers that you're really interested in early, right? Save them for later on in the day when you're warmed up and you feel confident and you've already kind of had some interactions, so that that first one is really outstanding. And then even in the group, if it's a mini info session, if it's not a one-on-one quick chat that you've signed up for, you still want to be engaged. So having your camera on, for example, right, is still a way to stand out, and making sure that you're asking meaningful questions and, definitely inquiring whether you can stay in contact with the recruiter, I think are some great ways to still stand out if it's a mini info session that is virtual.
Also, the idea of utilizing LinkedIn, right? So Kendra, as you said, how do you stay in touch with these employers? Obviously, you ask them for, their email. They'll either give you the email, or maybe even you can even suggest, can you connect on LinkedIn, and then periodically kind of stay in touch with them if that makes sense. So, I mean, LinkedIn, if you don't have a LinkedIn, we would strongly suggest that you put something together. Usually the process when we work with students, work on your resume first, be happy with the resume, all the content on the resume, the bullet points are thoroughly developed. It's marketing you the way that you want in terms of your career path. Then literally you can take what you have in the resume and copy and paste it into those sections in the LinkedIn profile. Okay, so then your LinkedIn would be basically a mirror of your resume, and then your headline on the top underneath your photo and everything would be aspiring speech language pathologist or aspiring HR professional, something to that effect. Okay, and then you'd be able to stay in touch with professionals like that. So just keep that all in mind. We can always talk in depth about LinkedIn as part of your job search tool, but for those of you that don't have LinkedIn, you definitely want to consider it.
Thank you. I think that's a great point. And to further iterate, once you have that connection, then you can get updates with job opportunities if they're using LinkedIn to share. And that is also a way that recruiters use to connect with potential candidates. So thank you for adding that. So moving right along, we're going to get into some important steps that you want to perform before the fair. This is really important because, again, we talked about making that first great impression, and being prepared is a great way to make that first impression. So if you haven't already received the link, I would just ask you to take a screenshot or write down the tiny URL where you'll be able to view and research the attending employers for the fair. So that's tinyurl.com/Brooklyn College Career Fair. Okay. And like I said before, right, you want to be open and think outside the box, because you never know what opportunities employers have to offer. You don't know what qualifications they're looking for. And if you're still not sure, which is totally fine, a lot of students don't always know exactly what they want to do. I know I definitely didn't when I was a college student. So that's why it's really encouraged for you to keep an open mind, network, speak to different people so that you could get an idea of what you yourself could be doing with your major, with your skills, along with your interests. Definitely important knowing, what in your ideal work environment with your ideal boss. And if you don't know, like I said, that's fine. We offer a career assessment. We encourage you to network and attend our events throughout the semester that'll give you an opportunity to connect with alum or other professionals that can give you some insider information. So after you do your research using the tinyurl.com/Brooklyn College Career Fair, you're also able to go ahead and go on the company website to get further details. And we would encourage you to be as organized as possible by creating a list so that you, one, have that information in one place. That'll also help you determine maybe which appointments you should take first, the less desired roles, right? You want to make sure those are first as suggested. And maybe, you can't do that because of scheduling purposes. I would just say do your best, try to use that strategy. If you can't, obviously, you're still going to prepare in other ways. So that doesn't mean that, it's not going to go well for you. I think it's just about being mindful and making informed decisions. And then also using additional tools such as Glassdoor.com, LinkedIn that we mentioned previously, and Volt, and obviously, right, their website. And you want to know what their mission is, what positions that they have open, and maybe look at the job descriptions, because this will give you some insight if you've already have some of those experiences, or if it's something that you would be interested in being a part of. And then you also may be able to find out some current projects that they're working on. So that'll give you a way to connect with them, show that you're interested, and definitely will show that you've been doing your research. And for any employer, that is a clear sign that you really want to work for their organization. And that's really what they want to know, in addition to the fact that you're qualified. Let's really get into the importance of first impressions. We know that they matter, but we like to believe that you could change that impression. Of course you could, because it happens, right? I could tell you some stories where, people might have met the first day and they rubbed each other wrong. Maybe it was the way that they introduced themselves, or maybe they were a little arrogant, the way that they talk. Sometimes people can misconstrue these small communication things. However, that relationship might have changed. But we would rather that not to be the case, right? We want to make it where it's a great first impression, and you don't want to have to change that impression. So definitely we want to make sure that you're in attendance if you have a slot, right? If you've reserved a particular session time, you want to make sure that you're there. And you want to make sure that you're telling your friends about the career fair, right? Sometimes I hear students say, well, if I tell somebody else, right, like that's more competition for me, and I don't want them to know because now I'm going to lessen my chances. Definitely not the case. Lighting one candle does not burn your candle out, right? So what that means, sharing information with somebody, passing on information does not lessen your chances. It only is a better outcome for your school. It's only a better outcome for your classmates, because now they're informed just like you. And again, that information doesn't limit you. You just want to be prepared and put your best foot forward, and that's really the best thing. So again, really important, if possible, to have your camera on the day of the fair. This will only give a good impression for you to the employer, and make sure that you dress professionally. You can wear a blouse for ladies, a button-down shirt for men, a suit jacket, anything like that. You could still put on slacks and dress shoes and come professional, because it's been proven that if you dress the part, you'll be more professional as well. And that's something that we strongly encourage. Definitely smile, right? Show your enthusiasm. Have your resume accessible. Really important, because sometimes we forget. We get nervous. We forget the things that we've accomplished. And it's normal. It's totally fine. But having that next to you, totally okay, right? They might ask you about the resume. Now you'll have it ready. You'll be prepared, right? And that's really what we want you to be prepared. Also, you want to show your undivided attention. In the past, Mike could tell you, we've had some very interesting participants in previous events and fairs. Some students have been at the beach, maybe. Obviously, you guys won't be at the beach, right? We're not in the summertime. Some students are filing their nails, just doing something other than giving divided attention. Just because we're virtual doesn't mean that it's okay to be multitasking. Obviously, we want you to be there. So if that means you have to take a break away from work and quick, we're flexible. However, obviously, if you have your camera on, you want to give undivided attention. And if you can't do that, then the best thing to do would be to leave the camera off, obviously, because it's one way or another, it's going to give a bad impression. Which is the worst? I would probably say the camera off, so that they don't see that you're not giving that undivided attention. It's also distracting for the presenter to see somebody moving around or doing something else. It gives them the feeling that they're not getting that undivided attention. And that's the last thing we want, because we want to make sure that they come back and recruit our students, such as yourself. So giving them undivided attention is very important, and a great way to stand out in a good way, because you could stand out in a bad way too, right? So when he talks about that, we don't want that. Like we said, we encourage you to keep your camera on. And when you do so, please also be mindful of your background. If needed, there is a virtual background feature on Zoom, which allows you to change your background, which is also a great way to, lessen the distraction. So maybe you're able to be still and divided, but maybe things going on behind you are showing that there's distractions. So I would just use the virtual background for that. You could download any picture and just go where it says where your video option is. And if you click that little arrow that's next to your video, it'll allow you to choose a virtual background. So we encourage you to do that because we definitely want to make a great first impression, and where possible, have those cameras on. Definitely make eye contact, show that you are giving that undivided attention. That's a great way to show that. And then also making sure that it's in a quiet space. Like I said, if not, then the virtual background will help with that. And then definitely, if you ever have a question, or if you get an opportunity to speak out, if it's in a mini session or a group setting, definitely introduce yourself. Let's say you have a question. Hi, my name is Kendra. I'm a sophomore studying computer science at Brooklyn College, expected to graduate in the fall of 2024. And I just had a quick question about how to apply for your spring 2022 internship, right? So like just being very specific, clearly communicating. And then once you say your name, obviously there's no guarantee that they're going to remember you, but that will just increase your chances. I always say it's a numbers game, right? Everything that we could be as prepared as possible, and nothing is guaranteed. However, it'll just increase your chances. And that's really what we want. We want to have the greatest odds so that you have the greatest outcome that you're looking for. And, from previous experiences and from advice from employers, what we're suggesting and advising are the ways that you really stand out. And it sounds like a no-brainer, right? These are all simple things that everybody could do, right? Awesome. So moving along to the next slide.
Thank you, Kendra. So we have 10 slides. Kendra did the first 5. I'm going to do the next 5. And like I said, we'll field questions as we continue on. Kendra touched upon so many really valuable points. So I hope everybody's taking some notes about this. And like I said, if this is your first time going to a virtual job fair, I mean, this is a really great experience. Again, it almost actually does have that advantage over being in person, in a sense. And it's almost like a take-home test in a sense, where it's like you're home, you could have some notes nearby. And what notes are we talking about? Well, first things first is, what's your pitch, right? So what is your elevator pitch? How do you describe who you are, 30 seconds to about a minute? I know it sounds challenging, but if you can boil down who you are, okay, in I would say probably around 45 seconds to a minute, maybe a minute and a half at the most. If you speak too much, speak too long, again, first impressions, you're a chatterbox maybe, or wow, they like to talk a lot. Like, we want to stay away from that. And we also want to stay away from rambling, meandering, kind of like going on. So we need to make it short and concise. I do have a list of typical questions that are asked during an interview, so I'll try to share that also in a few minutes. But let's take a look at this, right? Your pitch. So name and major, if you have declared already. If you have not declared already, you could say on your resume that you are exploring areas such as speech language pathology and communication. Or you could say that you're currently pursuing coursework towards accounting, let's say. So if you haven't really declared anything just yet, maybe you can mention some of the courses that you're exploring and taking right now. At least it gives them a sense of where you are. The position that you're looking for, if you know. So, I mean, again, when we look at that list of employers and the opportunities that are being available, this goes back to Kendra's point about doing the research about the employer, understanding what it is they're looking for. Are they looking for an accounting intern? Are they looking for a communications intern? What are they looking for? Okay. Why would you be an asset? So again, your strengths, values, experiences, academics, connect to those of the company. So again, what are these skills that are going to pertain to what the employer is going to look for, right? So if there really isn't much, if there's a lot in the job description and they specifically state skills, experiences that they're looking for, then those are the things that we're going to want to highlight, right? They're looking for somebody who has a strong work ethic, able to meet deadlines on a timely basis, able to problem solve. All those things, all right, are going to be things that you're going to want to mention in your pitch, in a sense, right? So, and if they don't have a lot of description in the job description itself, you have to anticipate, well, what are your core strengths? What are your best kind of skills that you could bring to the table to the employer? All right, so if appropriate, ask the recruiter a question. Again, most of the time you all should really have questions for these employers. You know, and again, they may cover some of those common questions, which would be, what are going to be my tasks and duties? Or, you know, they may talk about what the company culture is like. Okay, fine. So if they do cover those things, there are still other questions that you can ask, such as, what are some of the daily challenges like a person in this role? What does a typical day look like? It's also very similar to the company culture. And if the person's very personable and they're open, you can always ask them too, like, what do they like about working at that particular company? Okay. But again, that's more of a question for somebody who you feel is like really personal, really open and things like that. Okay. Another question they could ask, you could ask too, is what would a person in this role, what would they want you to accomplish in the first few weeks or first month of being at this internship or job, right? So it's about expectations. You can ask them clear questions like that as well. All right. So most important, level of enthusiasm and presentation. You may not give your pitch to every employer. It will depend on the employer preference. Use this as talking points. So again, everything that I'm talking about now, you know, these are some things that you want to have clear. And then finally, this does not need to be perfect, be yourself, which is very true. Now, people have some questions. Let's see. Can we ask what days and times a job would be? Sure. You know, if they do not cover that during the course of their introduction of who they are as an employer, what they're looking for, you can ask that, which would be great. Yes, you can ask typical schedule. Again, it could vary perhaps as well. I do want to share something with everyone just to kind of get a clear sense of what would go into your elevator pitch, right? So I'm gonna share a story actually really quick before I share that Google Doc. The Google Doc has just 7 typical type questions that you should at least have an answer for. Okay. First things first, when I was doing a mock interview with a student who was a computer science major, the first question I asked him was, of course, tell me about yourself. So he basically said in that minute pitch, everything that was on his resume. The only issue with that was I had already seen the resume. I already know about everything that he was going to say, basically, and all of his experiences and all the knowledge that he has. But the thing is, though, all of his competition had the same thing. C++, HTML, all these other technical aspects, his competition has as well, these other people that are going to be interviewed. So I had said, well, why were you inspired to work in computer science? And he said, well, I've always liked it since I was a kid. I was like, well, is there a specific example as to when that started? It was like before high school. I said, well, give me an example. And he said that when he was younger, he used to take computers apart to learn how they worked. And I said, that's a great story. That's a great part of your pitch, because then that makes you and your personal story stand out from the rest of the competition who didn't verbalize that. So I want that to be also a part of what your elevator pitch is really going to be. Some of it's going to be about what's on your resume, but then the other part of it, I would say the second half of it really should be about your interest, your passion to work in this particular industry. Okay, and I thought that was a really great story. And the next time he applied to a job, he got it by using that elevator pitch. Tell me about yourself in a minute and a half. You know, what skills and abilities do you possess? This case, it was based on somebody who wanted to work at the Bursaw's office here at the college. You can swap that for any name of company there, and that would be fine. Okay. Give us an example. You took a leadership role. It doesn't always have to be a leadership role. It could be, give us an example when you took the initiative on a project. It could be anything like that. This is the STAR method. So basically, give us an example of a difficult situation. How did you handle it, right? Situation, task, action, results. Okay. So again, a problem that you dealt with and how did you deal with it? All right. Strengths, weaknesses. They do ask this question from time to time. They want to see if you have prepared an answer for this type of question. And I'll give an example of how you would answer that. Actually, I'll tell you right now. So strengths, sure. We could talk about some of your really great strengths that you bring to the table. What's a weakness? Okay, well, you don't want to do anything that's going to make you look bad, right? You don't want to say anything that's going to make you look bad. So I would usually say, take something that you need work on, but that you're doing something about it and that you're improving upon it, right? So for example, some people don't like to do public speaking. So they'll say they're very afraid of public speaking. But they've decided to take a smooth talkers class here at Brooklyn College, which is the actual club that we have. It's called BC Smooth Talkers. And it's a public speaking class where you're there with other students and you start to become a little bit more comfortable with being able to speak in front of a group. So you could say, I've always been uncomfortable doing public speaking. However, I started to go to smooth talker classes and I'm actually starting to show improvement. I'm getting a little bit better at what I'm doing in terms of public speaking. So it's showing that you're doing something, you're doing some kind of improvement. Okay, so keep that in mind. Another one would be Excel, right? Everybody says that they know Excel, but do you really know Excel? Do you know how to create the formulas on Excel? And you'd be very surprised. You would think that an industry, let's say your particular industry wouldn't need Excel. Like, for example, I've worked with mostly students in the School of Visual Media, and most of those students are like, I don't know, why would I need Excel? Why would I need Excel? You would actually need Excel if you became a production manager who's dealing with spreadsheets in terms of budgets, things like that. So again, Excel is super important. And again, that's actually one of the things that me and Kendra have always heard from students, is something that students who are now alumni, when they give advice, say, I wish I did know Excel before I graduated. But that's another example of a weakness. Okay, I didn't really know how to use Excel, but then I started going on LinkedIn Learning, or I've been going on YouTube, and I've been able to look at some of the tutorials there to become a little bit more familiar with how to use Excel. Okay, so I hope that's clear in terms of how to answer that weakness question. They will ask that to see if people did the research or did the due diligence to try to answer that type of question. Okay, so I think there's a question. Let's take a look. Yeah, I am going to send you the link to this. So give me a minute. Actually, let's see if this will work. Check to see if that works. If not, then I'll have to change the share settings.
If I can
go ahead.
I think the big strengths or weakness is not necessarily about, you know, a soft or hard skill, but like Mike said, something that you can show that you've grown and, you know, developed it, right? Because obviously you don't want to just say, yeah, I'm really bad at this and just leave it at that. I think, like he said, as long as you're showing that you work on it, it could be both. It could be either or, soft or hard skill. But I guess it's easier maybe to do it with a hard skill. What do you think? Because the soft skills are like probably things that you develop, but it takes a different type of development, right? Like you don't learn how to be nice by like reading a book.
Yeah, no, soft skills versus hard skills. Again, it's like the hard skills is what? Excel, because it's a technical program. Whereas soft skills would be public speaking, your interaction with others, your interpersonality ability, right? So it could be either or. But like we said, like Kendra just said, it's like, as long as you're showing improvement and that you're making progress, I think that's the best way to do it. What have you learned from the process, right? Okay, let's see. All right, so if you have any continued questions, you can put it in the chat. But like I said, I share this now. I would say you can download this. You can download this as a Word doc. The reason why it's formatted in this way is because I've always kind of suggested to students to write out what your answers would be. Type it all out so that way you see it, you have your talking points. It's not a script because we don't want you to kind of, you know, memorize it and then it's almost robotic. Like that doesn't come across very genuine either, but it's talking points and things that you're going to remember to say when it's these questions that come up. And again, these are just some of the typical questions. There are others that they may ask. But I would suggest, yes, adding in what you would say here and then testing it out. Well, the first question here, tell me about yourself in a minute. You should test yourself. You should time yourself to see how long your answer will be. And it really should be like a minute, minute and a half if you can. Okay. And like I said, all the other talking points. And I think this is kind of helpful in terms of doing that. And also the STAR method too, which again, we all have stories in terms of our experiences. Now, if you've worked, let's say in an area, let's say you worked in retail, you worked at a doctor's office, it's not accounting, which is where you may want to go. It's not speech language pathology, which is where you want to go. There's still transferable skills that you gain from those places. What are the transferable skills? Your ability to work with diverse clientele, your ability to problem solve, your ability to work independently. You know, you have to self-assess yourself. And again, this goes back to your resume too. Does your resume sell you in that way also? Because if it's not, and your bullet points are kind of like answered phones, interacted with people, like that's not helpful. Go into super detail, okay? How many phone calls did you deal with on a daily basis? How many customers were you dealing with? How many patients? How many? Go into detail. And what were the results of the work that you did? If you were working in a doctor's office and you helped increase their efficiency with storing away people's files and things like that, that's great. That's an accomplishment. You were able to help increase their efficiency. If you're a social media intern and you helped increase a social media profile for your company by, I don't know, 30%, that's great. You should keep that in mind. Always keep those kind of stats, figures, things like that in mind. All right, so an example of one example of these pitches would be, you know, my name is Alexa Rodriguez. I'm majoring in TV radio. I've had a couple of years of retail experience where I developed excellent customer service skills. I know these skills are transferable to any industry. I'm very eager to gain experience in radio. My passion, good. I'm currently working for the radio station on campus as well, and I'm very excited to apply for your internship opportunity. Okay, so this is a 30-second elevator pitch, which is quick, concise, to the point, right? So what do we talk about? We already talked about, in her case, what's already on the resume. She's a TV radio major. She already has a couple of years of experience in retail, but they're transferable skills. Excellent, okay. And again, she talks about radio, how the radio is her passion, and that she's working at the radio station on campus. Great, okay. That's a really great example of an elevator pitch that is short, concise, to the point. And if you do go into a minute-long elevator pitch, you can actually expand upon why radio is so important to you, okay? So that's something to keep in mind as well. All right, after your employer conversation, you can thank them for their time and consideration. Always, of course, jot down notes about your conversation. Why? Because this is going to be very important when you do the follow-up. Don't forget about any follow-up steps they suggest. Upload your resume if they ask you to do so. And somebody had asked this earlier, how can you upload the resume? It's most likely going to be a Dropbox link or something similar that they will provide or we will provide. I think there's going to be more in terms of that logistics, how that's going to work as Andre, our colleague, Andre Fontenot, as he and Jocelyn Mariquin are the two main people that have been working very hard on this job fair. They'll be sharing that information this weekend. Okay, and of course, after you have uploaded your resume and you've already spoken with the employer, you always send a thank you note to them because you know you would gain their email address or LinkedIn profile, whatever they prefer. And of course, incorporate any important points that you discussed at the career fair. So again, when you write down the notes, you want to, in the follow-up email, address something specific that you both spoke about in terms of the opportunity. Okay, it could be, oh, the company culture. It could be the expectation of the person in this role. It could be something they said about the ideal candidate that they're looking for. You could say, I really appreciate the time that we spent to talk about this social media marketing internship and your need to find someone who's a great multitasker, who understands trends and is focused on engagement. And I am that kind of person, and I am looking forward to the next steps in this process. Something to that effect would be a really great thank you email, because you're highlighting something that they said during the interview itself, and you're reiterating the fact that you have that and you are interested in it. Okay, additional preps. Each semester we offer preparation workshops, opportunities before the fair to help you with your resume and elevator pitch. So next week, we're going to be focusing on several different types of workshops leading up to the job fair. I would say next Thursday is our mock job fair. What is that? That is the test run before the actual job fair next Friday with the actual employers. So you would book a time with each of us, the counselors at Magner Center, and we would give you advice on your elevator pitch. We would give you advice on, is your lighting in your situation good? Is the framing of how you're sitting, your background good? All of those things. And we have to be critical of that because, again, constructive feedback. We want to make sure that you're showing and you're giving the best presentation that you can to this employer. All right. So I would even suggest that, yes, you should actually dress up. So, if you've got, a suit or slacks or something, wear it. Do you have to? They're only going to see you from here up, right? But it kind of puts you in the mood to be like a professional and to put yourself in that professional mindset. So even though you have the shirt and the tie or the blouse and everything looks really nice, you did your hair and everything, and you're wearing your shorts or your Power Rangers shorts, if anybody knows that reference, sure, you could do that, but I would suggest, why not dress up? It'll just put you in that mindset. I mean, again, you don't have to wear the dress shoes if you don't want to, and like a look at that. But like I said, I think it can put you into that kind of mindset. So something to keep in mind. And again, also the mock job fair will be important because let's say you're not sure what to wear, right? So some industries are going to be like super corporate. So you may have to have the suit, jacket, and tie, for if you're going for an accounting internship, let's say. But then if you're speech language pathology, if you are a teacher, is it a little bit more laxed or not? Is a polo shirt good, instead, and maybe no tie? That's a good question. And that's also a question based on what your industry is. If you're in media, it could actually be a little bit more laxed where it's like a polo shirt with like a collar, that would be fine. I would stay away from just wearing a t-shirt. You don't want to do that. But maybe a collared shirt or a button-down shirt, or even you go all out with the shirt and the tie as well. I've always said, and Kendra may agree with me on this, it's better to be overdressed than underdressed. So there's that too. I've always gone to media-related jobs years ago when I was looking for work in the industry, and I would always wear a suit and tie. And once somebody did ask me, it's like, wow, you wore a suit and tie. And they said, how come? And I was like, well, I want to treat this as it's being very important. And you like that. I said, no, it's pretty good. Okay. And let's go to our last slide, then, which is good luck. Okay, so these are our final points. But again, we'll still answer some questions after this, but be yourself, of course, again, being genuine, be yourself. That's why I think that list of questions and having really honest answers for all of those is going to be very important when you're being genuine, but also hitting upon your talking points. Remember, you're selling yourself, you're marketing yourself to this employer. Okay, kudos to yourself for taking the step to advance your experience and career. For some of you, maybe some of you are freshmen and sophomore. That's really great. Some of you may be juniors, seniors, and alum. Look, that's totally fine. Doing this now is super important, no matter what area, what school, what year you're in, basically. Reach out to career news at brooklyn.cuny.edu if you have any last-minute questions. You can totally do that. Of course, Kendra is the counselor for the School of Education. I am the counselor for the School of Visual Media and Performing Arts. We have counselors for the other schools as well, Natural Behavioral Science, Humanities, and School of Business. So you can always email Career News to make a specific appointment to meet with any of us to talk about resumes, cover letters, job search, mock interviews, even after the job fair. I would suggest after the job fair. Next week is really going to be focused on some of this other prep that we've been talking about. And then, of course, check out our virtual interview prep webpage. So this is another one, tinyurl.com /prep virtually. Okay. I think we covered a lot of ground. What do you think, Kendra?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to add one thing, very important for everybody. Please be confident. Confidence is key. Do not feel intimidated by having a one-on-one conversation with an employer. Be confident in who you are. This is going to excite them. This is going to let them know that you're mature, that you're ready for the role. Obviously fear is natural, but when you show that you're afraid, it kind of gives the other person on the other side the impression that you're not ready to do the work. And obviously we understand, the nervousness and the fear, but I want you to walk away today being confident. Is very important. Make that great impression. You have all of the tools and the resources to do so. You have all of the information you have to do great research, and obviously you have plenty of resources. And it could be intimidating. We understand that you have your classwork going on, But the other thing that I really want you guys to walk away with, since you are all here, and I'm really excited that you're here, is that, employers want a well-rounded student. So yes, you do want to keep those grades up. I will never tell you not to keep those grades up, but I just want you to keep in mind, for those seniors especially, do not limit yourself to just the academia. That is not enough. If you've been thinking that all this time, I'm sorry to break the news to you. You need to push a little harder. You need to go above and beyond, because that is what employers are looking for. They love those grades, but they really want to see those that you're ready to take on this work, because there's a lot of challenges in the workforce, and they want someone who is ready to take on those challenges, be okay with making mistakes. A lot of the times people don't do things because they're afraid they're going to mess up. That's okay. It's about, what do you do once you make that mistake, right? Pick yourself up, try to solve the problem, don't give up. So I hope that today's workshop was beneficial to you all, that you walked away with a lot of great information. Mike, if you want to say anything else before we let them ask some questions.
Sure. No, these are all really great points. Kendra and I have been doing this for a long time. So again, we've seen what works. We see students that are successful. And the fact that you're here at this workshop is very good. Again, you're taking the initiative. I mean, I want to say you should do an internship or two before you graduate. Yes, very important. And that's going to Kendra's point. It's like, you got to push a little bit further beyond just like having that 3.8, 3.9, 4.0 GPA. Even if it's a 3.0 GPA, look, it's okay. But also you have to have that internship that helps build your resume. Super important. Or even volunteer work. That's also important. Or clubs on campus. Think about all of those things. All those things will build your resume, all transferable skills, and super important. I will tell you this. I mean, I've worked with a student who did an internship in accounting, thinking that she was going to be an accountant, and then decided, wow, okay, this is actually not for me, and switched majors and went into business management. Good, because the internship helped her make an informed decision about that career. That's super important. Okay. The other thing too, also, and again, we could touch upon some of these other tips too. You can always utilize LinkedIn to find a potential mentor for yourself. We have a presentation called BPR, Building Professional Relationships, where we're giving students the resources, knowledge of how to self-initiate outreaching to a potential mentor. And it doesn't have to be an alumni mentor of the college. It does help though, because then you have that natural kind of connection, being both from Brooklyn College. But I suggest this because if you don't do an internship first, maybe you go and reach out to somebody who's working in accounting or in journalism or in speech language pathology, and you get a little bit of a sense. If you can kind of interact with them, you get a sense of, why did they choose this field? What are their daily duties like? What are their daily challenges like? Same questions. You want to know, is this really right for me? So instead of doing an internship and finding out that, okay, that field isn't right for me, sometimes if you speak with somebody who's in the field, they can actually give you that advice. And you could ask more than one person. You just don't have to, wait or just base it on just one person. So let me show you that actually. Kendra, let me show them that LinkedIn page. This is the Brooklyn College page on LinkedIn. Click on alumni, the 87,000 alumni. You can do a search for speech language pathologist or daycare counselor or whatever it may be, whatever keywords, do the search, and then you can actually go through people's profiles. And then you can potentially outreach to some of these people to kind of ask them these same questions. When is the recruitment season, or when, like, what are the expectations? Like, you can find out a lot of information from people who are alumni who are in your particular field. I'll put this in the chat, and that's an example of some research that you can do to kind of make things a little bit clearer for yourself.
I was just suggesting to also use the LinkedIn to look at the individual profiles, because then you could also see where they previously worked, if they have that degree already. So you could get some ideas of where you could possibly gain your experience as well. And then just to go into the chat, we have a question. Would taking a role you're not specifically going into, but in the same ballpark, be smart? I'm aiming towards data science, but there are plenty of software engineering roles available. So I would say the short answer for that is yes, definitely take on a role if it's, in the ballpark. It doesn't have to be exact. And really, we want to network, right? Like see if there is room for that role in that organization. It might be something, and also I think making sure that the skills that you have in data science are transferable and that you could use them in the software engineering role, and also that you would be able to transition, meaning that if you have gained some skills in the software engineering role, that you could bring it over to the data science side. The other thing I would suggest is, let's say you take on a role that's not exactly data science. That doesn't mean that you can't still do data science, right? That means that you have to do it more on your own time. Maybe you're working on your own projects, or maybe you're inquiring within the organization if you can shadow or work with the person who is in that field. So those, Mike, if you want to add to that as well, please.
Yeah, anything that you can do to kind of gain more experience. And then there's the other aspect too of getting your foot in the door of a company, let's say. So some people have done that where, maybe this is not the immediate role that you want, but it's the step in the door of the company that you're interested in. All right. So that's why they call it stepping stone positions in a sense. And that's why the earlier type of roles and opportunities are called that. So, I mean, again, if you have an opportunity to work at Google, it's like a specific internship, fellowship, whatever, maybe it does lead to you becoming a lead software engineer. Again, it's about climbing that ladder and taking on those opportunities as they are presented. Just getting your foot in the door of a company. I mean, we have plenty of stories of people that started at one particular company. They're still there and they climbed the ladder to the company. And here's the other thing too, Kendra. I mean, if you agree, it's a lot of these companies would like, depending on what the industry or field is, but you'd want to hire people that have already been in the organization already, instead of hiring from outside, because they know who you are, and that's the goal. The goal is to grow within the company. Again, also, I mean, with the way things are now with the job market and stuff like that, people like to jump around a little bit. Yeah, okay, that's possible. The days of somebody staying at a job for 30 years, is that over? Not necessarily. It might be, but maybe not. So something to keep in mind. I think all of that's super important. And again, this is all information, resume building stuff that you need to put onto your resume anyway. And I just want to put in the chat a link to our resume guide. Again, if your resume is not formatted correctly, it could be a problem. It's something that is super important. We want to make sure that your resume is easy to read, formatted correctly, as flawless as possible, no typos, and full of descriptions. So take a look at this here. It'll take you to Info Central, and then if you click on resume cover letter, there's a PDF there of one of our guides, and you can look through those templates. We do take it seriously. I would not just Google resume template, just find something off of Google, because there are templates that are on Google that are lame resume templates. They really are, because, right? We've seen some bad ones.
Don't pay. People have paid.
Oh.
You have free as a student, so keep that in mind as well. Because every time I've seen a paid resume, I've had to check the whole thing. I'm like, what is this? It's garbage. And then like they sell you a dream. This is great. This works. And because you know what, honestly, the industry changes all the time. Like that's probably one of the, things. So it's not to say, because I don't want to discredit anybody and say like that they didn't have valuable information to share, but it could just be that it's outdated. Just like your resume is a living document, the industry changes often and frequently, which is why it's so important to stay in the know and to stay connected and have reliable resources, because what is true today, and especially in the Department of Education, I work with the School of Ed, and I have a representative that I always work with, and he always says what's true today is not true tomorrow, right? So just keep that in mind. The industry changes, the expectations, the skills that they're looking for, all of those different things. So, just stay, abreast to what's going on. Read the newspaper if needed, depending on the industry that you're in, because that's a way to stay in the loop of what's happening. you know, especially now with different requirements for COVID, you want to know how has that impacted the industry that you're looking to get into. And even if it's not just COVID, things will change anyway because the needs, the demands, expectations change, and the organization has to make those changes to the requirements of their applicants as well. So it's really great to just stay in touch with what's happening and be in the know of the news. And having some insiders is a great way to do that. And as Mike said, you can connect with them on LinkedIn. You know, attending our events that we have throughout the semester are some great ways to meet people, especially for those who are a little shy like myself. I'm not always outgoing, so having that buffer and creating a space for people to connect is a great place for you to be to connect with other people.
Yes, the industry's changing. The pandemic changed everything. The way we work, the fact that we can work with people anywhere in the world now remotely. So one of the things that I have noticed, and Kendra can agree, that you know, you want to be able to say that you can work effectively and efficiently in a remote environment. You know, like that's something that I heard an employer ask or even suggest to say, you know, something that students should think about because, again, you're not in a physical office. So they don't know if you're working or not, or they don't know if you're going to be super productive. So, you know, that's something that is going to ease somebody's mind, a recruiter's mind. It's like, all right, well, you can work effectively and efficiently remotely. And that's why meeting deadlines, taking the initiative, you updating your supervisor rather than them hounding you and micromanaging you. You don't want that either. So that's something to keep in mind, something to be worked into your resume, into your cover letter, into your answers to interview questions. Also, in terms of resumes, you're going to have multiple versions of your resume. You're never going to have like a one standard, one shop, this size fits all, that's it resume. You're going to have multiple versions of your resume. So be okay with that and understand that you're going to have multiple versions. And it's all going to be based on, you know, industry, what's changed, advice you get from people that are in the field itself. Our resume templates are a great starting point. Sometimes your resume is actually going to change because somebody in the industry that you're going to work in said, you know what, you don't necessarily have to put coursework, or you don't have to put your associate's degree, or you don't have to put a summary, or you don't have. Well, if they're giving you that advice and they're working in the industry, then take their advice. It's just another version of the resume to use. Okay. And the last point I want to make is, you know, going on these interviews, especially the ones next Friday, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Keep that in mind also. So again, that might take away some of that pressure, that fear, the anxiety, because again, you can meet this person and then it doesn't click, it doesn't vibe. Okay, you can just, you don't have to accept an internship. You don't have to work there. You know, in those situations where, let's say you interview with someone and wasn't the right fit, or not the right vibe, whatever it may be, and they still offer you an opportunity, you can politely say that another opportunity had arisen and thank you so much for your time and consideration. And then that's it. You know, you don't have to ghost them. You don't have to be rude about it. Say, I don't want to work with you. You're lame. No, that's how you do it. You kind of finesse it and you do it in a more professional kind of way to turn someone down if that were the case. But like I said, interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And one more point about confidence during an interview. If you have answers to those questions that I showed you guys, I think maybe you'll feel a little bit more confident because again, you've done the extra work. You've looked at those particular typical questions that they ask. You have answers to them. So those are like the core, in my opinion, those are some of the core questions that they would ask during an interview. You have answers to those and you feel confident about those answers, then you should feel a little bit more confident when you go in there and you meet with someone.
Definitely.
All right. I think this was super productive. I don't know if you guys have any other questions. If not, then, you know, we look forward to you maybe doing some more workshops with us next week. The mock job fair day, which I believe is next Thursday. That's Thursday the, what, 30th? And again, that's where we're going to give some final advice and feedback. And then we hope that you go to the job fair, and we wish you the best of success there as well. Thank you, Siegfried. Appreciate it. Yep, Kendra's email is there. I'm going to put my email as well.
Put it
guys have any questions, you can reach out to us and let us know.
Glad I'm happy to hear from you. Yeah,
thank you for joining us, everyone. Okay, enjoy the rest of the afternoon, do the prep, and focus on answers to those questions, and we'll hopefully talk to you and see you guys soon.
Make sure to check out the My Career tab on the BC Navigator app, where you can track your career progress based on the amount of credits you've earned, stay updated on upcoming events from the Magner Center, and watch our videos for insight and advice on your career field.